I never felt so lonely in my whole life as when I moved to the United States from Russia in 2011. I came on a scholarship at the Library of Congress and rented an apartment on Capitol Hill. And I felt so lonely that I was about to talk to my toaster. But then I got lucky and met someone. We were the only regulars in the European reading room, and I introduced myself. She said, "I'm Rebecca." I thought, would it be appropriate to say that I like biblical names? But instead I asked her about her research. She said, "I'm working on my PhD about influence of Italian folklore on Domenica Scarlatti's early sonatas." Nothing came to my mind about Domenica Scarlatti's early sonatas, and I wished I hadn't dismissed my earlier biblical line. Then she said, "Now tell me about your research." "Sure," I said. "It's not often that people ask me to talk about my paper on Muslim rescue of Jews during the Holocaust." She said, "That's funny, because I'm Jewish." I said, "I'm a Muslim. I hope that's funny too." And then suddenly she said, "Would you rescue me?" I thought, this is probably the most uncomfortable Q&A I've ever had about my paper. And I said, "Are you in trouble?" She said, "I might be." That's when the librarian gave us a shut up look. And I never learned why Rebecca might be in trouble. We kept running into each other and adopted that flirting style. And I decided to make my move on Valentine's Day. Actually, I decided to make 2 moves, just to be sure. And as my first move, I invited Rebecca to a little cozy coffee shop on Pennsylvania Avenue. We had tea and shared a slice of lemon cake. I took her hand and said, "I like that you don't do your nails." She said, "Are you sure you like women?" I said, "Not all women, but you definitely." We fought over the last piece of cake, and I opened my mouth and invited her to feed it to me, which she surprisingly did. And I said, "Take half of it." She took the cake with her lips out of my lips, and she said, "That was the funniest first kiss ever." We left the coffee shop holding hands and started walking toward the metro. And I felt that if I let her go, that would be the end of it. And I didn't want it to end. So I was glad that I prepared my second move. I told her, "I should buy you a Valentine's card." She said, "How nice, there is a CVS store on the way to Metro." I knew that, because my second move was that I went to that CVS earlier that day, bought a card, made an inscription, and put it back behind other cards so that nobody would buy it accidentally. A simple red rose on a white cover among other colorful Valentine's cards. I let Rebecca pick a card, and she didn't pick mine. I said, "That one looks a little bit flashy for your classy dress." I had to come up with similar lame excuses 3 more times. Finally, she picked my card, but before she opened it, I said, "Let's steal it and make it memorable." She smiled, "But the alarm will go off at the exit." I said, "Then we'll just apologize and pay for it." She stopped smiling and said firmly, "No, let's not do that." I said, "Fine, I'll do it alone," and I took the card out of her hand. And she said, "I'm gonna tell the manager." Now, that was not the first time I did that fake out card stealing trick. And it always worked, back in Russia. I thought, I wonder what's wrong this time. I looked like a badass in Moscow, but here in DC, I look just bad. But I calmed myself. Everything's under control. I paid for the card earlier and I got the receipt in my pocket. And I moved toward the exit. And Rebecca moved toward the counter. I thought, I'm glad we're doing this now because I wouldn't want to risk spending the rest of my life with somebody who would turn me in for a Valentine's card. And I exited the store. But it turned out that she was bluffing and she exited after me without the SWAT team surrounding me. I offered her the card. You see, the alarm didn't go off. She snapped, "I don't want it." I said, "Why don't you just look at it? And if you don't like it, I'll return it." She looked puzzled and reluctantly opened the card and read, "Rebecca, how lucky can one guy be? I kissed you and you kissed me. Happy Valentine's Day." She said, "Did you set this up?" And I was happy to see how she turned from wolfish back into foxy. I took her hands and looked into her beautiful blue eyes and said, "I've been looking for someone like you since I came here." She kissed me and said, "Do you want to show me a place?" I thought, hallelujah. It felt like a beginning of a meaningful relationship. And for the first time in many months, I didn't feel lonely anymore. At my apartment, I had a couple of candles that I bought earlier as a symbol of my belief in my 2 moves. And while Rebecca was in the bathroom, I lit the candles and drew the curtains because it was still bright day outside. When Rebecca came from the bathroom, she was wearing red, beautiful lingerie. I thought she was prepared too. I kissed her and reached behind her and unfastened her bra. She put her arms on my shoulders and whispered into my ear, "I'm married." You what? No move could have prepared me for that. My heart sank and I felt heartbeat inside my stomach. I sat down on the sofa and she sat on my lap with her pale breasts just inches away from my lips. I thought, this feels like breaking the 7th commandment, the one about not committing adultery. Or is it the 8th one? I mean, it's pretty far down the list. I thought, apparently she doesn't love her husband, and probably they are separated, and she probably trying to move on. And I said, I've heard such things happen to others, but I never thought that I would fall in love with a married woman. And she said, and I never thought that I would fall in love with 2 men. I speak 3 languages, and I've never heard such a sentence in any of those languages. I realized she'll never be mine, and whatever we share would just be stolen. Much more so than my pseudo-stolen Valentine's card. So we sat there, sweet and sad, with candles burning behind the curtains in the middle of the day on Capitol Hill. And that didn't feel sexy. I felt even lonelier than before I met her. I never saw Rebecca again. But no matter what, she remains in my heart as my first American love. And for the record, I stopped using that card stealing trick after that. It doesn't work on Americans anyway.
How lucky can one guy be? I kissed her and she kissed me. Like the fella once said, ain't that a kick in the head?